And right now, we are going to speak about building SOC security operation centers, which at a given moment of time this year are playing the key role in discovery and investigation of hacker attacks. And we're going to speak together with Alexei Vorontsov, the head of the Service of Cyber Defense Department in InnoStage. Hello. Let's begin with a question. What principal changes in the role of Security Operations Center this year? Is there any difference compared to the year 2021, compared to what is happening right now? Because hacker attacks are growing, their complexity is growing, their numbers growing. SOCs, how do you react to that? Well, as paradox as it may sound, from the point of view of Security Operations Center and their role have not changed at all, due to a simple reason. This year was a year of practical cybersecurity, when cybersecurity for everybody went into the practical area. But what is SOC? SOC is a department of the Informational Security Division, which is involved in informational security in interactive aspect. So SOC is involved in this practical cybersecurity. When attack has happened, you were not able to prevent it, and you should do something with it. You should find it, how it happened, and prevent it, removing its consequences. That's why for the SOC this year, there's only more work. For other departments, especially for the companies which didn't have such departments like SOC, the year 2022 became the year of discovery. For those companies which have SOC, this is just a growing load of Security Operations Center, because Security Operations Center is that piece of Information Security Department which undertakes the first impact from these practical challenges. Well, the load has increased, but how security operations centers react to this is the growth of headcount, maybe the technological re-equipment, maybe changes in the processes of organization of their work. What's happening? Both first, second, and third, but each one of them is related with certain challenges. If the equipment can be changed, optimizing the internal processes is much more complicated. So the work with personnel, HR, it's a critical situation, because Security Operations Center is critical to number of people working there. They are scaled linearly. The double increase of number of incidents, you have to double your headcount. But from the other side, when attacks are against everybody to the level of the country, where can you find so many people? That's why we do have a separate direction of how can we train those people inside from within, and inter-university SOC that we do together with Positive Technologies, in order to allow our universities to create students with practical cybersecurity skills, with those skills which are highly demanded by security operations centers. And which universities are those? Right now, we work on the level of Tatarstan Republic. It's a pilot project, and we have 4 universities: KAI, KGEU, KFU, and University Innopolis. So basically speaking, in a couple of words, if I'm going to tell you about this project, it looks like this year we have increased the number of attacks, and from the point of view of who is very interesting for the attacks, we see a paradox. Previously, universities have not been attacked because there's nothing to take from them. They have no money. It's not understandable how to monetize any damage that you cause to universities. But right now, any target within Russian Federation became valid. So when there was a reception session for the universities, there was a big number of attacks against informational systems, against the reception committee, etc., etc. And universities have understood that they cannot defend themselves, and they have no money to go to commercial SOCs. They cannot build SOC by their own efforts. But you and us, we have another problem. We miss people. We critically don't have enough people. So we have two critical problems. One, people don't have enough defense. Another, people don't have enough people. And we thought about this on the level of inner stage SOC. Can we solve both of these problems with one stroke? And we have invented this thing as inter-university SOC. So we help several universities to build such a virtual SOC. We provide them all the necessary equipment as a service by providing it from the inner stage cloud. We provide them the whole methodology. We teach those who are going to teach the students. And then in this university, we start working with teachers and students, and they defend themselves. Yes, they defend themselves. They defend other universities which cannot defend themselves because they don't have information security department, like medical universities. There are medical people. They are not specialists in info technologies. They defend themselves, they defend other universities, and as a result, they increase those skills which are necessary for you and me to hire those specialists and immediately put them in front lines in a shift so that they would process events. It's a good idea. And like with this standoff, they would defend from hacker attacks. A very good idea. And most importantly, practical experience for the students and future possibility of the growth. Yes. Okay, let's speak about development of the SOCs. How can you describe the level of development of those SOCs? Maybe by categories: underdeveloped, middle developed, overdeveloped. And what SOCs have to do to develop, to go further, to follow the current growth of hacker attacks and their complexity? Well, from this point of view, I would dive into the situation, how SOC functions and what makes it SOC, because SOC is not just a shift worker, but you have to understand that SOC, first of all, is a department or division of Department of Security. So if you have implemented, for example, CM, you have installed a lot of servers. This is not SOC. Even if you have installed a couple of people who monitor all this equipment, this is not SOC. SOC is a department which builds the work with incidents in the area of information security as a production process, as some conveyor. And in order to make it possible, the shift is not sufficient. One shift is not sufficient because it has to react very quickly. It's too late to go to Google and search how should you react to the DOS attack. The shift worker should already have prepared instructions and reaction plans, so-called ebooks, to which they should know what should be done if, and they should have the red lamp immediately as some incident happens, which means that everything should be tuned up from the point of view of reaction which means that in addition to this working shift in a good, well-functioning SOC, which can be called real SOC, they should have another functionality, which will think about questions: what if these are people who are not sitting 24/7, but they walk to different dark nets, they monitor vulnerabilities, and they think, okay, we have a new potential attack, and how this attack is applicable to my company, how this attack can be realized by hackers in my infrastructure. And these people are writing so-called use cases. These are scenarios of monitoring. How can we discover that particular fact that in our infrastructure they've realized this new attack? And there should be a third category of people, because out of our theoreticians or the threat intelligence service, we have some documents published which discover some monitoring scenarios. These documents should be taken by us and rewritten in the language of correlations for specific CM of positive technologies, for example, for specific means of detection. Then it should become scenario, it should become playbooks, instructions on how to react, which will be undertaken by this working shift. And this is an engineering terminology, and this combination of theory, implementation, and practical experience becomes a mechanism which self-improves with time. You have a new attack available, we understand how to detect this attack, we made it into the means of monitoring and the language of monitoring language, and then we've transferred this knowledge to the working shift, and the working shift can react in a framework of minutes. And this is the most important for the security operations centers. The faster they will react, the less damage will be caused by attacker against our organization, and they will be able to keep the money. So when this machine is working, that's what we have. We have this mature SOC where production incident processing is put on a conveyor. So this is a production conveyor process. It's a good machine which makes certain knowledge about threats into opportunities of reaction. Okay, let's speak about technological equipment. Well, it's understandable that there are different groups of people who in the end are organized in such a way so that threats would be detected and new threats would be discovered, and the team is prepared so that in the case of attacks they will be rejected. From the product point of view, technological equipment, well, if you will remember my picture where we have the working shift, where we have threat intelligence and engineering, well, it's understandable that each one of them works with their tool sets. The working shift always works with CM systems. These are systems of correlation. If we're speaking about threat intelligence, they work with their own systems. It could be a feed processing system, because feeds is one of the ways how threat intel receives information from the external world, and there could be systems related with a SIEM. There could be functions like threat hunting, because threat hunting outputs are two of them. First, IOCs, which is considered by threat intelligence, and incidents which are given to the working shift. So the system related to threat hunting could be big data, correlation of big data, engineering. They have their own means of detection. They are involved in supporting functioning of the security operations. At the same time, we understand that we have several groups of people. We have several teams that work with their own processes, which means that we also need systems of supporting these working processes. This is either ticketing, the application management system, or this is SOAR or IRP systems, which are involved not only from the point of view of applications, but also help to SOC in additional things such as acquiring contextual information, automation of some standard actions, connection to additional external information from configuration management systems. So some kind of a single window for the security operations. And from the point of view of security products, which of those are needed? Well, the situation is that SOC is a monitoring structure. The main security products are following. They don't carry any security functions. CM, SOAR, threat intelligence, all these is monitoring products. These are all analytical products. As for everything else, the products which are carrying the protection function, and this is always outside of the SOC, because SOC is not equal to the Department of Information Security, because SOC is monitoring infrastructure, which is involved in informational security after the incident is happening. Before the incident happens, we have a full class of prevention of incidents, antiviral protection. Its main objection is to prevent infection. And if infection happened, then SOC started working, and if antiviral system has been overcame, and also screens and inter-host systems of prevention. These are prevention systems. And then SOC starts working when they have been broken through. And SOC system does not exclude standard information security, but they are just on top of it. So SOC is a system of analysis, intelligence, but how these things are related. These attack attempts, they don't give you a lot of information. And the way how the SOC service receives this information in order to be able to use it in their own practices. Well, 2 times you have reflected the attack, the 3rd time they went through. Yes, and then we have another question, because when we speak about SOC as analytical center, like information security center, one of its functions is processing, including knowledge that was acquired in the framework of reflecting this attack, because if there were two similar attacks, this is not an incident, it's a problem. And then we face classes like problem management, which has to be processed. Well, repetitive incident is a problem. It has to be solved by totally different methods. You have to change the CF protection, maybe new means of protection should be introduced. But who is reacting to this? SOC. Yes, this is also a SOC function to manage those problems, to do the post-analysis, to come to the conclusions and give those conclusions directly to the corporate defense security department, those who exploit the security services. So the SOC is a brain center of the service of the informational security, but the brain center from the point of view of analytics and operative aspect of cybersecurity. It doesn't cancel functions like compliance, because SOC can give to compliance a certain introduction data, input data from the point of view of operative information, but it will not replace compliance to the standards of BCI, DSS, or the personal data protection law like GDPR. And I have the following question. The 1st May of this year, the president have signed a decree which makes first entities of the company responsible for the cyber incidents in the company. So which tells us that expectations from IT people and security people will be dictated not on a technical level, but on the level of corporate management. How do you see at a given moment of time, whether will this lead to any changes from the point of view of demands towards SOC from the side of, maybe they are not going from the technical side, maybe they will go from the side of the business, maybe they formulate SLAs differently, or maybe some other parameters. Will this lead to any changes right now? Well, I will tell you that yes and no. Because, yes, much more companies started thinking about work with incidents in the operative point of view. In the Decree 250, in addition to the fact that they appoint the first entity of the company, they also speak about monitoring functions, the function of monitoring and prevention of the incident, and it sounds like SOC function. On the other side, you have to understand that everything that I'm describing to you right now, this is a very complicated structure. As you understand, this is a structure which is not realized by 3-4 people team. You need a big team of information security. What size of the team? Well, medium size in order to be able to fulfill the full-scale SOC with all these functions, you will need 20 to 30 people. And this is a serious value. So you mean all these people who describe it? Yeah, this is a serious value for most of the people. So they say, no matter how they want or they don't want, they will not be able to realize the full-scale SOC with their own efforts. And this will be either some hybrid SOC, or at a certain moment of time they will not be able to cope with these problems. Well, I'm speaking, should it be done with your own forces or third party? Because I have to understand if there is any changes in the work with SOCs, to expectations from SOCs in connections with the decree by President 250. Yeah. We do have, and they are combined with the transition of more cybersecurity people into the practical sphere, because not only the Decree 250 became the driver for this, but also the increasing number of attacks and the fact that non-standard companies start to be attacked as well. Non-standard companies are being attacked. There was a big cluster of companies which never paid attention to cybersecurity previously because it never involved them. They never had a lot of goals and targets for example, offline retail, which practically was not even looking at cybersecurity, because if they don't do online trading, for them this is nothing. No more than some kind of a myth that you can be damaged from the point of view of cybersecurity. And there's a cluster of companies. Can you list those companies? Well, there's a big number of companies with public participation, including manufacturing companies. Same thing. They've been in this condition of ignorance that information security might be a problem for them. Yes, they do have certain class of systems, and these systems have never been served by them, and they don't even pay attention that there could be a possible damage from the point of view of information security. And who were more prepared, more trained? More trained are traditional companies which are closely related with information technology technologies. These are banks and telecom. Banks and telecom companies, they were always targets because banks have money, telecom operators, they have the possibility of fraud with traffic. They've been overregulated, so both of them have been well prepared, and for many of them this did not become some big problem that information security came into the practical aspect for them. For those of them who didn't do that, and for those for whom informational technologies are not the basis of their business, this became a very unpleasant surprise. Well, how can we organize the SOC operations and selecting between organization with your own resources or with the help of some partners with the external organizations? How do you see this should be, well, how it works right now, and which trend do you see in relation to further development of SOC operations? Well, as I've told you previously, the main driver, perhaps that SOC is a very complicated structure. Not many people can allow themselves to have it. Only big business can allow to have their own SOC. On the other side, in our country, in principle, there is a trend of transition to outsourcing and transition to external service providers. This is not a popular trend. Yeah, and this perhaps was inherited from previous crisis levels when we've had a certain number of crises in our country and companies wanted to keep the money inside of the companies without giving them to external companies and understanding that if some serious crisis will happen, then it might be a problem, like service provider will leave the market, for example, like it happened this year when a big number of Western companies, including service companies as well, suddenly left market and clients stayed without anything. Basically, the whole function, whole corporate functions was pulled away from the company and they have diluted in the air. Unfortunately, this is the dark side of any outsourcing. The bright side is that you can receive those functions which in a reverse situation will not be accessible, like Security Operations Center. You can go to any of those outsourcing companies, including ours and big number of our colleagues, and you'll be able to get it as a service. You don't need to have this working shift. Well, it was not so popular in Russia, as you say, and there are some rocks, underwater rocks, especially if vendor leaves the company. But nevertheless, do you see this outsourcing trend for SOC services, or the companies should keep it within themselves? Well, because there's a decree 250, there are attacks, and companies understand that right now, the given current market of the information security, the HR market, they will not be able to find a necessary amount of people. And this will not be just a question of money, that they will not be able to build this SOC, but it's a question of inaccessibility of those resources. Well, speaking about the money, do you have any example of approximate estimation of how much will it cost to create your own SOC, to collect this team out of 30 people, provide them with necessary products and technological processes, and how much would it cost to outsource SOC on monthly basis? Or how can you compare those numbers? Well, I do have understanding, and I'm not going to call specific numbers. Why? Well, roughly speaking, in order to build your own SOC, this is, as a rule, is on the level of a 6-digit in dollars, like millions and millions, should be invested. This is building. In order to build it, in order to find people, in order to find equipment, this will cost you more than $1 million. Because it's a lot of protection measures, it's investments into the personnel, and this is investment to make it work. So then you will require some external consulting or maybe some time to work without any results. And average price for the outsourcing, is lesser, but how can I say it? This is the always price that the company is not ready to pay to the third-party companies, because this is the price that you will pay every year. It's going to be like a fixed price, and every year you will give this amount to the third-party company, and it never stays inside of your company. So this mindset, this habit to keep everything inside, because if you've purchased a product, you should keep it within, and you have increased your own capitalization. If the product was leased by you, it doesn't belong to you. You can pay much less, but when leasing will run out, you will stay without anything. And this understanding, well, becomes additional factor against joint transfer to the service model. Well, I have a final question, and maybe unexpected, a little bit unexpected. You've been speaking a lot about practical security. Mostly, the work of security people and SOCs previously was tuned up to provide formal requirements and basic monitoring. But right now, this trend of practical security, you need certain results, you need some qualitative changes. Well, to your point of view, is there anything, what should happen, like revolutionary, in order to change the results of this work from the one that we've had to become a practical one that we expect, one revolutionary thing that should happen with the work of SOC? Well, perhaps understanding, especially from the point of view of top management of the company, that security right now is a practical task. Sometimes this understanding comes very difficult. Sometimes this understanding comes as incidents of informational security, but without this understanding, there will be no breakthrough. Before you will be hacked, nothing will happen. Or before you understand that you are vulnerable to some other means. Very often, this also can be a national peculiarity. Well, a person will not do any action before the lightning will strike them, and before the information security touches you, business will not start investing into it, because information security, we all understand, for the business, it's exclusively the expense center, cost center. But when business starts understanding that this is not just cost center, but this is like an insurance, possibility of not losing everything, then business starts thinking differently. Before this understanding is coming to the heads of corporate owners, we are not going to see significant changes from all the levels. So changes should happen in the heads of people, not only top management, but sometimes it's in the owners' heads, because you should understand from the point of view of the top management, these are hired employees. The only thing they can lose is a good employment. But from the point of view of the owner, and the only thing that he can lose, it's the business of his life. It's his own capital. It's a piece of your business. So from the side of the owners of the company, when these changes are happening in the understanding of what is information security, then information security is standing in its proper place, and then it becomes something practical. Well, it was Alexei Vorontsov from Inner Stage Group, and we've been speaking about building SOCs, about which trends are expecting us in the nearest future, and how practical understanding of what can really happen with your company. How can this influence the way, how it should be reflected in building your SOC? So practical security in SOCs. Thank you very much, Alexei. Thank you.